Welcome to Rick Rack Ruby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will be making this crossbody window pouch. This is a really fun project and a great way to use up your panels, your fun custom prints, fun zippers, zipper pulls, hardware, webbing, straps, all the fun things in one design. So let's get started. To make the window pouch, we're going to start with a panel. This is a woven panel, so it's woven fabric, and it has a motif in the center of it. And these are very versatile and really fun to use. So I'm going to measure this particular image in the center, and I'm finding that it's about 7.5 square. And so the first thing I want to do is cut a piece of vinyl, and I'm using 12 gauge vinyl, and I cut it 8 inches square. And I want the vinyl to be tight to the image. I don't want to make it way out here because then it'll get too big. And I'm going to sew these. I use my 2.5 inch ruler to cut strips of coordinating fabric. Some of these fabrics are cut on the vertical or the sides, and some are cut on the horizontal. The whole idea of this project is that you can use any image, any size, any coordinates. You don't need an embroidery machine. You don't need to follow a specific set of measurements to make something from a pattern. You are going to make your own design. I chose to make the strips 2.5 inches wide because I'm accustomed to working with jelly roll strips, and my first projects that I made using this technique were with jelly roll strips, but of course not all fabrics come in jelly roll strips, so I had to kind of make my own. But if you have a smaller image, you could work with narrower strips. Some of them are vertical and some of them are horizontal, as I said. Now, one thing that's really important is do not cut this out. Just because I showed you, how it, the measurements and whatever, don't cut this out. This is going to be, we're going to work with this later. We're going to set this aside for now. With the vinyl square, now I traced around the vinyl and I made this 8 inch square. But I traced it with my Sharpie, with a permanent marker, so that, number one, I want you to be able to see the edges, to see the square, but also it's just easier when I'm aligning these strips. It's easier if I can see the edges. The first thing I want to do is find the vertical strips, right sides together. So with the right sides together, I'm going to do 2 strips. So I'll cut a little beyond the vinyl, and I'm going to do 2 strips. So one will be actually inside the project and one will show on the outside of the project. I like to use, believe it or not, I like to use clips for this. So I'm just going to clip this the edge of the vinyl is to the edge of the strip. I cut them a tiny bit longer just to make sure that I have enough. And I'm going to clip, 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 and then stitch with a 1/4 inch seam, and then I'll be back. Here I've stitched it, and now I'm going to flip these open. I can't press it because I don't want to melt the vinyl, but I want to be sure that I kind of finger press it to make sure that that seam is nice and open and smooth. And I'm going to add just a couple of pins. I'm not pinning through the vinyl, but just to make sure that that's pulled back. So this is going to be the front. I like the way these motifs are pretty well centered, so I'm going to use that. And then for my next side, I'm going to try to choose to cut a strip where it doesn't have the exact same figures. So I think I'll use this part because the figures are different. So once again, I'm going to just extend this a little bit over the edge of the vinyl and then cut this off It doesn't have to be perfect. And then do a second strip here. And then clip and stitch a 1/4 inch seam. Here we go. Here's the second side. I've stitched it and now I'm turning. Remember to do both sides. So there's a front and a back. And I'm going to pin those out of the way. And then, okay, before I go on to add the strips to the top and the bottom, I'm going to top stitch 1/8 inch from these sides. That looks nice and neat. And now for the top and the bottom, I'm going to use this strip. I think I'll try to get one of these kitties toward the center like this. And we'll do the same thing to the top and the bottom. But these strips will go all the way to the edge of the side strips. So I'll cut them here and here and go all the way across. And that edge of the vinyl, again, is right at the edge of the strip. Just like that. So that when you flip it up, it's going to be right side up on the inside and the outside. So my window is done. It's, you know, faced on the back and it looks pretty good from the front. If you're looking at your window, if you are looking at your window and you feel like it's a little bit wonky, I find that too. And I have thrown a couple of them in the trash, but there are a couple of things you can do to prevent that. Number one, make sure that your vinyl is at least 12 gauge. You can even go heavier if you like. This is just what I had, but if you go too thin, then it can stretch. And then I tried using my walking foot. Oh, I don't have it here right now, but if you want to use your walking foot, that will solve the problem too. The next thing to do is we're going to add a zipper to the top edge. You can use a number 5 zipper or a number 3 zipper. I have some options. And generally what I like is there will be a second zipper at the top of the bag. This is going to be on the front. But what I like is, you know, to have the zipper end, the pocket zipper. I want the pocket zipper pull to be on one side and then the top zipper pull to be on the other side. So I'm going to put this one on the left. And I have a couple of options. I have this purple, sort of a lavender color. I have this super hot pink, which is pretty awesome. And then I have this blue, sort of an aqua color, which is also pretty cute. And these are 14 inches long. I just have a whole bunch of 14-inch zippers. That's kind of my default. And just as a reminder, here's the panel again. So purple might be the best. This one's a little too bright. I think I'm going to use the purple. So I'm going to sew this zipper. I'm going to center it. So I have this, the pull will actually be way out here, and then I'll have a little extra on this side too. And I'm going to pin and stitch this zipper. And then, you know, face down and then fold it back like this. So I will pin and stitch that and I'll be right back. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to fold this back and I'm actually going to top stitch it, but I don't want any of these little raggedy bits showing. So first I'm going to trim away this little seam allowance here so that it's inside the edge of the zipper. That looks good. That's the back. And now when I top stitch here, the inside is going to be just as clean as the front. That looks good. Now, remember, we haven't cut anything from this panel yet. And I just want to make sure that I say that enough times because it's really natural to say, oh, you want an 8-inch square? Okay, let me just cut around this little center here. But we don't do that. So but we are going to cut 2 2.5-inch strips from the bottom edge of the panel. And those are going to be right here above the zipper. Here are my 2 strips. And I'm just going to sandwich that top edge of the zipper in between the two strips. And then I'll clip along the edge and sew it, flip it over, and top stitch. I think it's important to note that the top edge of the zipper is done a little bit differently from the bottom edge. The bottom edge we sewed 2 layers right sides together and then trimmed the seam allowance and then top stitched. And for the top edge, we're actually sandwiching. So it's a little bit different. I didn't want that to be confusing. So the top edge is done a little bit differently. Okay, I have these top strips sewn on. And here's how it looks from the back, kind of the same. And now I'm going to do just a couple little steps to just help to ensure success. First, I'm going to do a little bar tack right here so that, with my sewing machine, so that I don't accidentally, pull that off. And I'll do a bar tack over here too because I'm going to be cutting off the end of the zipper. And then I'm also going to do a basting stitch all the way around the square. And that's so that as I continue to construct the bag that I don't accidentally get this cut up somehow. I'm just going to make sure everything's nice and flat. I've done my bar tacks and I just wanted to show you what they look like. It's just a little zigzag very close together right across the zipper teeth at each end. One here and one here. And I made sure that the zipper pull is inside. Now I'm going to use my square to kind of square up everything, which it doesn't look too far off, and then I'm going to baste around the edge. This actually looks pretty straight. I'm just going to trim that and trim this over here. Now here comes the fun part. The window is complete, and now we're going to center it over the panel. Then I'm going to just pin it strategically and cut it out and then baste around the whole thing. Now I've pinned all the way around. Now I'm just going to cut out this panel piece right at the edge of the pocket. And now I'm going to baste around the entire edge. Now the front of the zipper pouch is finished. Here's the pocket. And there's the zipper. And if you've ever made a zipper pouch, I can tell you that what we have here is just the front of the pouch. So we're going to treat this as just one piece. This is just the front of the pouch. Now there's going to be a number 5 zipper with a number 5 pull at the top of the pouch. So I want to do some preparation first for this. For this zipper, I'm using a rainbow zipper and a pink pull. You can use anything you like, coordinate with whatever fabrics you're using. But I don't like to sew through the teeth of the zipper, even though they're nylon and you can sew through them, and I have certainly done that. I would rather have some fabric on the ends so that I'm actually just sewing through fabric. So I'm going to measure this 12. And then I'm going to subtract an inch, so 11, and I'm going to cut my zipper to 11 inches. Ooh, that doesn't seem very big, but I know it's going to be fine. So I'm subtracting an inch. So this is going to be at the top of the bag. So in other words, I'm going to be sewing it like this, and then there'll be a lining, and then a back, and a lining off of the other side. Okay, there's my zipper. Now I want to put some fabric on the ends of the zipper in order to give me something to sew through. And, I can use these, but I think it's a little bit more fun to just get something completely random. So I think I'm going to go look and see if I can't find a black and white stripe for the ends of this rainbow zipper, because I think that would really be fun. I cut a 4-inch wide strip from this black and white print, and then I folded it in half, and then I'm folding the sides in like this. And then I'm going to put this along the edge of this. And I want the end of the zipper to be about halfway, like it ends right here. This does not have to be precise in any way. Don't worry about it. And the idea is that this zipper, we're going to sew it like this, and then whenever I'm sewing up the side here, I'll be sewing through fabric instead of through a lot of zipper. Hope that makes sense. There's no specific formula for this. I just feel like the wider the zipper and the bigger the project, then the wider the tab. Let's call that a tab. Kind of like that. And then I can feel the zipper teeth right there. And then I'll pin it, and then I'm just going to top stitch along here and along here. The length of this doesn't really matter. I'll be right back. Here's my zipper. It's all prepared, and now I'm going to line up the edge of the zipper with the top edge of the bag front. And this is right sides together, so when it's sewn we can fold it back like this, and this will be at the top of the bag. And I'm just going to stitch this down with a 1/4 inch seam allowance from here to here. There's the zipper, and this is how it will look when we're done. I'm not going to do any kind of top stitching here. I've learned my lesson. We just need that to be flat for when we sew it all together. Now I'm going to take this and cut 2 lining pieces this size and 1 backing, also this size. So in other words, 12-ish by 14.5. Let's say 12 1/4 by 14.5. And I'm going to cut those, and I will be right back. I've cut out 2 linings and 1 backing. This is vinyl, and that'll be the backing. Here's the front, so this is the pocket piece that has the clear vinyl. Here's my zipper. So the bottom edge of the zipper is sewn to the top of the front of the pocket piece. Now, the first lining piece, the top of the print, is pinned and stitched right here to the top edge of the zipper, the wrong side of the zipper. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, that looks good. Now the top edge of the zipper is going to have some D-rings, and the D-rings are for the strap. I've cut 2 pieces of this 1-inch seatbelt webbing, and I did apply some of this fray check to the ends, but you don't really have to. And I'm going to position these. Let me just move this out of the way for a second. Okay, I'm going to position these about like this. So they're inside the tab, and I want them to be sewn very close to the bar of the D-ring. And also I want to be sure that this doesn't shift like this or like this while I'm sewing it. So I'm going to apply a tape here to secure this. Here's my tape. I'm just going to tear off a small piece of it and apply it to the inside of this seatbelt webbing. This is 1 inch rainbow webbing. And then peel off the backing, which leaves the adhesive there. And remember, this adhesive, it's not important to, you know, to hold this together. It's not sticking it to the bag or anything. I just don't want the webbing to shift. So I'll do the same thing for this one. There are lots of brands of double-sided adhesive that'll do this. And it's not super necessary. If you, you know, want to pin it, that's fine. Now, I'm going to set this so that the bar of the D-ring is actually right across the center of the zipper. And remember, this is going to flip up. So it, even though this seems kind of bulky, that's not the way it's going to wind up. So I'm going to just pin that right there. Actually, maybe I can clip it. Let's see. That's the idea. And then this one here as well. So that's where those are going to go. And then this little piece of elastic, I like to add an elastic tab right here. So it's going to be right here. And this I can add some little dangles, a little keychain or a little decoration or something right here, kind of up high. I like it to be on this side because when I wear it, this is going to be toward the back. It won't be dangling in front of me and distracting me. So I like that about right there. I'm only pinning through the front of the bag. See, it's just pinned like that. And I'm going to go ahead and base this and this and this. These are attached and this is attached. And remember, this is only through the front. This doesn't go all the way through to the lining. And now I have 2 more pieces to sew to the top edge of the zipper. So to the top edge of the zipper, not only do you have these 2 D-ring tabs, but also the vinyl, which is right side down. Isn't this pretty vinyl? It's called Fairywings. This is periwinkle. I'll put it in the supply list. This is right sides together to the front like this. So this will wrap around and become the back a little bit later. And then this one, this is my second lining piece. This one goes this way. So the lining goes to the wrong side of the top edge of the zipper, like this. And then the vinyl or the backing goes to the front. So you will actually be attaching the back to the top edge of the zipper and the back lining to the back edge of the zipper. And this is all right sides together. And if you want to confirm that you have this all right, just remember that when you open it up like this, you have lining to lining and front to back. So I'm going to pin and stitch this all in one seam. Okay, I sewed across the top, and I should have mentioned that I did switch to a zipper foot to get in, to sew close to the zipper. And as I sewed along, I moved the zipper pull out of the way. All right, so now we're gonna open up the zipper pull and we're gonna sew around the edge of the bag. So we've got the outside front and the outside back and the lining front and the lining back. I'm gonna leave an opening in the bottom center here, big enough for me to slip my hand in. So it'll probably be about this big, maybe 5 or 6 inches in the center. And then I'm just gonna stitch all the way around. However, when I'm pinning the center where the tab is, of course I'm matching up the seams for the front and back, but I also want the tab to be folded toward the main body, the front and the back, and not tucked into the lining. It's easy to remember because it kind of follows the tab and the zipper. I want the zipper to be out on the top of the bag and not crunch down into the body of the bag. Hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to pin all the way around and stitch. I've sewn around the edge and I'm going to trim my seam allowances, and I'm going to reach up through here and turn it right side out. And it occurs to me that I might have forgotten to mention to open your zipper, so that that's the big zipper at the top, so that you can actually reach through. And also, when I pinned around the edge, I used clips for the vinyl so that I wasn't poking holes through the vinyl, and I used pins for the regular cotton. So I'm going to trim my seam allowances. I'll probably clip the corners, reach through, and turn it right side out. Here we go. I use my chopstick to poke out the corners, and I'll show you how the top looks with the little black and white stripe on the ends of the zipper, and these little tabs are looking very good. And the bottom seam, I'm just going to close the bottom seam just by top stitching it. So I'm just going to pin it like this and top stitch. If you want to be really neat about it, you can hand stitch a ladder stitch or something in the bottom, but I prefer to do it the quick and easy way. Here's how I close the bottom. I'm going to tuck it all inside, and then we'll get started on the strap. Okay, let's do the strap. I have 54 inches of this 1-inch rainbow seatbelt webbing, and this is a 1-inch slide adjuster or strap adjuster, but it has like this little center piece that moves. And so I'm just going to put the strap through, just over and back, and kind of overlap it a little bit like that. And I've switched my thread to this purple color. That was the closest color that I had to kind of blend with these shades. And I'm going to stitch across, straight across this cut edge of the strap. And did I mention that I used fray check to seal the ends of the strap? I used fray check to seal the ends of the strap. And they're dry and ready to go. Now I have 2 swivel hooks. These are rainbow, they're 1-inch swivel hooks, and I'm going to thread one of these on from the opposite end here, and then go through the adjuster. And pull that through and just leave a couple of inches here so that so this will clip into one of these D-rings. Just leave a few inches here, and then the opposite end goes through this the ring of the D-ring. Goes through this swivel. And it doesn't matter, since it swivels, it doesn't matter if you go this way or that way or whatever. I usually just try to choose the side of the webbing that matches my thread the best. Just fold over about 1 inch, and then I'm going to stitch this down. Strap is done. So I'm just going to click it onto the D-rings, and since these are swivel hooks, it doesn't really matter which way I place them. You can always kind of spin them around to however you want. And then I'm going to come up with something to attach here, some little charm or doodad, which will be fun. And the window pouch is done. There's the front, there's the back, there's a zipper. Put some fun things in there. The strap is adjustable. And I have a couple of other examples to share with you. Here's one that I made with this adorable Poe fabric, and it's fun because the red zipper and the red top stitching just provides another design element, and I made this little snap tab and I just love this fabric. And then this one was fun. Also kind of a spooky vibe, but a sewing theme, so that's fun. And everything's the same except for these, instead of D-rings, they're just sort of like little rectangular. Oh yeah, and on the back, instead of using vinyl, I just used regular quilting cotton. Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you're enjoying my videos, please like, share, and subscribe.